bring us home, Daniel, on ways that we could work with regret. And you've got a nice little prescription of what you
Yeah,
found to be
I
valuable.
think, and it's actually related to some of the stuff that you do. In that, I sort of look at it in three stages: inward, outward, forward. Inward, outward, forward. So inward is you got to regret. You have to reframe how you look at yourself and your own regret. And one of the things that you see, and it's probably even more true, you would know better than I, of high performers rather than mediocre performers, is that when we talk to ourselves in the face of mistakes and screw ups, we're brutal. That our self talk is cruel. That if you were to, for many people, okay, I won't universalize it, I'll personalize it. Like if you were to somehow broadcast my self talk in certain circumstances, or if I were to actually use that self talk on somebody else in an organization setting, I'd get fired. Because you don't talk to anybody that way. Yet we talk to ourselves that way. And the solution there is relatively straightforward, which is don't do that. Look at the work on self-compassion from Kristen Neff at Texas, and what it tells us is treat yourself with kindness rather than contempt. Recognize that your mistakes are part of the human condition, that they're a moment in your life and not the full definition of your life. So that's how you reframe it internally. Externally, we talked a little bit about this, but it's more important than I think we realize, which is disclosure. Disclosure is an unburdening. As we mentioned before, disclosure can be a form of building affinity. But the other thing, and I think it's incredibly just more, I learned from this research, it's more important than I realized, is this, that emotions are blobby, they're abstract. That's why positive emotions feel good. It's why positive emotions, as you say, can sometimes feel overwhelming. They can feel overly challenging. Joy is, it's hard to describe joy. We know what it feels like. And when it comes to us in ginormous doses, it's almost unrelenting. We want relief from it in some way. Negative emotions are also, being emotions, are amorphous and blobby. But if we write about those emotions, if we talk about those emotions, we convert that abstraction into concrete words, which are less fearsome. And that allows us to make sense of it. So there's a lot to be said for disclosure and the sense making that comes from language. And the final step is to extract a lesson from it. And again, these three steps work together. You have to learn something from it. You have to do that systematically. And as you know, we tend to be terrible at solving our own problems, but decent at solving other people's problems. So what you want to do is you want to do some self-distancing. And so it's goofy things like talking to yourself in the third person. So what should Dan do? Not what should I do? It's things like, we've heard of these things before. It's things like Andy Grove's technique, where he's trying to make a decision when he was the CEO of Intel and he wasn't sure what to do. He says, what would my successor do? Zoom out, think about it from another perspective. I'm a big fan of placing a phone call to the you of 10 years from now. I can make a very strong bet, I think, what the me of 2032 is going to care about. And it's not most things. The me of 2032 isn't going to give a shit about most things, but he's going to care deeply about certain things. And so make decisions so that the me of 2032 doesn't have words with me. The single best decision-making heuristic I know is you're trying to make a decision. What would you tell your best friend to do? And so what you want to do is reframe internally, treat yourself with kindness rather than contempt, go outward, disclose it, make sense of it through language, and then get some self-distancing and extract a lesson from it. And as you were saying before, it's really not that hard. It's really not that hard. But no one ever teaches us. And if we do it systematically, like anything systematic, we begin to turn it into a habit. We begin to make it less effortful. And when it becomes less effortful, then we're able to take this sting of regret and just naturally turn it into something positive and forward-looking.